Hi, welcome back. As long of a while as it has been since I made a Honkai Star Rail dedicated video, Sirene's release was the one thing that brought me straight back. Not to the game, but to once again make a video talking about it. This character is now the most controversial character in Star Rail's history, with a ticking time bomb for a kit and a predatory weapon skin. Even the next character coming out, Dahlia, has similar ticking time bomb issues, just as many support characters before them do. Honkai Star Rail's character kits have always been a mess, but Sirene's and Dahlia's cases solidified what this game is about, and after this, there is no going back. Every subsequent update is going to be the same. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why Honkai Star Rail fails at creating proper support units, how its combat system is inferior to other games, and ultimately, how Star Rail's devs ruined character investment and pull value. Just before we jump into the content, I've got something I want to talk to you about. Creating these videos over the past 2 years has been super fun, but it's also a lot of work. So help me make more content for you by checking out Rage Shadow Legends. I'm sure you all know about it at this point. It's a fun fantasy-themed turn-based RPG game, all about collecting characters and fighting powerful enemies. It's got all the RPG game essentials, tons of amazing gameplay, and incredibly fleshed out endgame content. So, if you're a fan of this stuff, you're going to love it. You'll also get rewards valued at more than $200 by downloading it using my link in the description and the pinned comment. It's free, you won't regret it, and I would really appreciate it. Now let's get on to the content. So, to start off, you would think that they'd want to make Alicia's XP one of the most overpowered characters, being incredibly versatile and useful basically everywhere and for a very long time. I don't think she would have been as good as another Robin or Tribby, but I think she would have been amazing as a Sunday-like support for units going into 4.x, or some sort of other versatile support, or maybe even a very powerful DPS unit, as many of those as we got in 3.x. And I don't mind them power creeping anybody with such an anticipated character. I think it's fine if Raiden, May, or Alicia, for example, were the power ceiling. However, Acheron is currently less than half the strength of somebody like Castoris and Finon, and when it comes to Sirene, they instead decide to make her one of the strictest characters in the game. Not because she doesn't have many team comps, in fact she has as many team comps as there are Chrysos heirs, and it's not because she's weak. In fact, when you have a high cost Chrysos heir team, Alicia is going to be one of the strongest upgrades for that team. Instead, she's strict because she doesn't have a future. Her future is about as uncertain as every 3.x units, and those units are absolutely going to get power crept as soon as 4.x drops. If you don't believe that, you're coping. 4.x will bring an order of magnitude of scaling to the damage in Honkai Star Rail, and with it, Sirene will become useless. Now they also do realize this is why they made her an option for high cost and high investment teams. The higher investment teams you have, the longer your teams will be in the meta, so if you have E2 of every unit in your Castoris team, then it will take a while for the new units to become an objectively better option, making Sirene objectively a whale-bait character. Now, the only way she becomes useful again after she falls off is when Chrysos heirs units are buffed, maybe in like 5.x or 6.x, or when we possibly get a large event where a Chrysos heir unit gets a new 5-star version. However, not only does that leave 1 to 2 whole years where she is just not meta, but as much as unit buffs are cool and all, they are definitely underwhelming because they are few and far between, and 3 out of the 4 units who got buffed now don't really need older teammates anymore. While the Silverwolf buff is really good, both Jingliu and Blade now require some sort of Hyacine Tribby team, but they also do so much less damage than any Chrysos heir DPS units, so why the hell would you use up your Hyacine and Tribby on them when you could just use Castoris and do so much more damage to so many more types of enemies because Castoris still has resistance penetration for no reason. The free down Hunk Peter is definitely a great sustain to replace Hyacine for those who don't have her, or those who want a higher quality sustain for other teams, but then where does that leave old sustain units? They got power crept by a free unit, and then the next sustains on 4.x are going to power creep Hyacine and Peter. And again, if you don't believe that, you're coping. When it comes to Dahlia, then pulling her is honestly incredibly useless right now because Super Break teams are just the next transitional phase between patches. She is not going to make Super Break teams as strong as 4.x teams are going to be. The meta is also not going to be focused around Super Break again during 4.x. Most likely we're gonna have a new elation path, but we don't have enough info to really say so. So, what am I getting at with this rant? Am I just ranting to hate on Honkai Star Rail? Well, no, not really. Maybe? My point is that Honkai Star Rail is not a game about investment anymore, or simply never was. Worrying about a character's future is no longer useful. There's no such thing as future-proof in Honkai Star Rail, because there is no future. Acheron's future was only artificially extended with Jiaoqiu, Kafka's future was artificially extended the most with units like Gunaifen, Black Swan, and right now Hyceland's dropping. Firefly and Rappa's futures will now be artificially extended by Dahlia for a couple patches, and finally, high investment Chrysos heirs teams will also be artificially extended by Sirene. but all of them will still be weaker than the new 4.x units. Adding these new support units that stretch out each unit's life may seem like something amazing to the players, but it's really just to squeeze the last few possible dollars they can before switching to the new meta. That's what happened with Acheron and Fei Xiao. Even with their premium teams going into 3.x, there is no return on investment, and every single unit that you pull is going to become bad or less than optimal one day. And even when they get buffed, they're still not even going to be second choice most of the time, with the only exception for this being Kafka, who still became pretty powerful because Hysolence herself is so overpowered. Remember when we said units like Kafka were future-proof because they get better with every new DOT unit? That barely aged well, and the only thing saving her is Hysolence. Except that's not true, because what happens when Hysolence stops being meta herself? Do we have to wait for her as well to get a buff and then possibly Black Swan for DOT teams to become good again? Do we have to wait for Kafka to get power crept or get a second buff? Are we playing Dragon Ball Legends? Is this a game of just waiting until we get another buff or until the game makes us roll another meta support for our favorite team? The same thing goes for Silverwolf. While calling her future-proof was always kinda stupid because her only role was slotting in when you didn't have the correct elements, but even right now elements don't really matter anymore. Tribby has resistance penetration, everybody uses her, except she's gonna get power crept soon, somehow. And with Dahlia, break units are going to become meta again for a very short while, when enemies in the endgame content become break focused again, and those units will continue breaking the element system again. Speaking of breaking, Dahlia's kit breaks the rules of Super Break because she's going to allow Super Break to deal damage when toughness isn't broken. But wait, I just said that there is no such thing as investment, meanwhile break units, some of whom are more than a year old at this point, will now be good again. Well, honestly, that is simply just a trick. The meta of this game depends on what enemies they choose and what characters they are releasing, and what new rule they decide to break, pun unintended. This is why Honkai Star Rail is not an F2P friendly game. They've done this before. At any point they could make one unit weaker than it was just a couple patches ago. They pick and choose what metas they want to make strong in the current cycle, and it's always related to the newest characters coming out because they simply want to sell them. Honkai Star Rail isn't a game about pulling one character and keeping them on your account for a very long time. Honkai Star Rail is about always pulling new units. A few supports, 2 DPS units, and 2 sustains from every major patch, maybe some free 5 stars here and there to make you forget that the game feels like shit without them, and forget about the units you pulled last patch. Sure, you can probably still clear with them, but it is not comparable to the new units. If I went in with my old ass account right now, even with Archer and Dan Hung Peter collected, I doubt I would be able to clear at all, except when Dahlia comes out when I have to replace one of my break units, all of whom I love very much as characters by the way, and have 2 of them on multiple constellations, except I'd have to replace my E1 S1 Ranmei with an E0 S1 Dahlia, who'd make the team perform better for me to beat the content in a timely manner. Is that fine because E1 Ranmei is technically free now? Well, no, not at all, because I spent pulls on my E1S1 Ranmei a very long time ago, and now I would have to replace her if I want to play the team I originally pulled for optimally. See what I mean by no investment? Maybe I'll be able to get a high cycle clear, but anybody who pulls Dahlia will clear so much faster than me. While Honkai Star Rail players probably don't see this as an issue, I do. While you might think that pulling the new characters should be a prerequisite to getting good clears, I don't. The prerequisite should always start with skill and end with what gear and characters you have. Honkai Star Rail doesn't have that. I'm somebody who is in the Arknights, Battlecats, FGO, and Limbus company spaces where you can clear with whatever units you want. Specifically in Arknights and Battlecats where I have the most experience, not only is every unit either completely useful or useless somewhere, and the meta is not dictated by whatever enemies the devs choose and is instead on a well thought out cycle that depends on skill and strategy, but you can also properly lose based on skill and strategy. In Battlecats, the meta isn't determined by the new units coming out, it's determined by which stage you have to clear that day. Is it a black or red enemy stage? Well, the new anti-Aku unit coming out is going to be absolutely useless. But that's not a bad thing, because your anti-black legend is also going to be useless against Aku enemies, while your new anti-Aku unit is very good. In Honkai Star Rail, that does not exist. You just run the new unit to win, always, every time, without exception. There's also no skill and no strategy, because all you have to do is run Hyacine and Peter and you never die, but you can run out of time, and that's technically a loss, but it also doesn't depend on your skill at all. It depends on how many copies of Dance 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 and how many perfect relics you have, or how many 5-star units on light cones. But in Arknights and Battlecats, you just have to kill the enemies. That does not work in Honkai Star Rail because of the fundamentals of the combat in this game, because of how many rules they constantly break with every new release, and the fact that all endgame content is timed. Going back to Honkai Star Rail players, I think at this point, everybody in this game has accepted the fact that this game is going to always have power creep, and that their older units are and always will be subpar. If that's how you want to market your game, then use you, but I'm still going to criticize and shit on you for being greedy. Honkai Star Rail is a game about how lucky you can get in the gacha, either when pulling or when choosing what units to pull. Because remember, they can pick and choose who to make powerful. It is a game about how much money you spend if you're not F2P. It is not a game about skill, and in the end, that's actually fine. This is why I don't make Honkai Star Rail dedicated content anymore. Honkai Star Rail players seem to enjoy this, I don't. I could make a video about every unit and how they make the game worse, but why the hell would I keep doing that? Not only will the devs just never fix this because it's obvious that this is now their philosophy with the game, but I'll also get stupid arguments like, well, every Crisis Air unit is at the same level, so there's no power creep, and other people are saying just quit the game, and honestly, the second group is definitely wiser. If you are currently agreeing with everything I am saying, then there are only two options for you. Stop caring about Honkai Star Rail's meta so much and just play the game extremely casually, or quit the game. My friend Mr. Fleur spoke a while ago about how he enjoys Honkai Star Rail now because he plays it differently. I could go right now, start playing Honkai Star Rail again the same way Fleur plays it, and I would probably enjoy myself at least a little bit. However, I still wouldn't enjoy myself as much as I would by playing Battle Cats, because I love challenging my skills, and in Honkai Star Rail I can't do that. The only thing I need to do is get the new units to win. If you enjoy that sort of thing, honestly, all power to you. However, I also urge you to realize that you are being a capitalist slave to Hoyoverse, and that Honkai Star Rail is not an F2P game due to the reasons I mentioned today. I will continue to make content criticizing HSR and lists because that's the type of player that I am. It just won't be focused on HSR and will be in the same format I've been making for the past couple of months. And I urge you, Honkai Star Rail players, to keep an open mind to also help you guys realize what type of players you are. If you enjoy Honkai Star Rail despite all my criticisms about it, then that's fine. We are not enemies just because we enjoy different things. If the devs do indeed somehow add a power ceiling, which they won't, then no matter what else happens, I will be going back to Honkai Star Rail 4.0. Sirene will also stay useful for a very long time, and same goes for Dahlia. I just really doubt that that's going to happen, because if I had hope for that, I wouldn't be creating this video. So in the end, if I reach such a fence-sitting conclusion, why the hell am I making this video? Well, money! No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I doubt this video will get that many views, honestly, because right now my algorithm is Arknights and Limbus coded. This is simply not something I've talked about in Honkai Star Rail before and thought it would be cool to talk about. Maybe other content creators have and I'm not bringing something new, but I don't care. This is my channel, not theirs. So that's everything I have for you today. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and join the Express Rain Discord server for a fun and lovely community to hang out with. Don't forget to check out Raid Shadow Legends using my link in the description to earn yourself $200 worth of rewards in the game and support me directly. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.